Life is eternal, you bet it is. Welcome, everybody, to our Sunday gathering. Yes, it is. It's Sunday. It is the 12th of February. Hard to believe we're a couple days away from Valentine's Day. We are celebrating love today, but in a little different way, with the theme of home. Home, Home. And during our time together, reflect for yourself. What does home mean for you? It can mean different things to different people. I'd like to introduce you to those who are going to be joining me on our virtual stage today. We have the beautiful Carrie MacLeod and Philip Dykes. They will be doing our demonstration of mediumship. Carrie will also be doing our healing, and Phil will be giving some inspirational words for the week. Darren will be doing our opening and our closing prayers. And we have my good friend Brian Smith here today, or our good friend Brian Smith here today, to do our address. A little bit about Brian. We met years ago. He's been on our Sunday gathering before. He has been actively involved with one of our favorite organizations, helpingparentsheal.org. He is also the author of the book Grief to Growth, grief with the number 2, growth. He has the Grief to Growth website. He has the Grief to Growth podcast with loads of episodes. He is a coach. He is a giver, and he is just kind and loving and compassionate and wonderful. So about a month ago, I interviewed him for an episode of We Don't Die Radio. And my soul just pulled on me that we need to have Brian back on our Sunday gathering. So Brian created the theme. He's picked most of the music today, and it sure is nice to have him with us. So I'm going to turn it over to Darren for our opening prayer. And welcome, everybody. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Sandra, and a wonderful theme you've got planned for us all. So I'm really looking forward to it. So if you'd all like to close your eyes and join me for today's opening prayer. We unite here today together as one, as friends, brothers and sisters from across the world. We unite here together today to play our part and be of service in any way we can as we join together under that banner of We Don't Die. We unite here together from different countries within our land, speaking different languages and having different dialects. We unite together from different backgrounds and different understandings. But today we unite here together in the name of love, for the love and joy of uniting the two worlds together as one. As we enter into this Sunday gathering, we do so with no demands and no expectations, so we can allow our workers to work freely and uninhibited, to share the words and the thoughts of all those in the unseen world. As we come together, we put aside our own desires, our own needs, and our own wants, so we can allow those in the unseen world to share their words, their thoughts, and their communication, so that it can go to its desired natural resting place here today. As we enter into this Sunday gathering, we do so with an open heart and an open mind, knowing that anything is possible. But we can all take away and absorb the unconditional love and that healing balm that we can all feel here today within our Sunday gathering to uplift our hearts, our minds, and our souls as we leave this Sunday gathering. Each and every one of us deems it a joy and a privilege to walk side by side, hand in hand with those in the unseen world and to represent the unseen world here today. And each and every one of us does this to the best of our abilities and our understanding. And we truly hope we can make you proud here today. As we open up this Sunday gathering, we do so as always with nothing but positivity within our hearts and our minds and smiles upon our faces, and we offer you an abundance of love so that we can create that perfect meeting ground in which the two worlds can unite as one. And as always, we ask that that healing balm continues to shine to all four corners of our world, to give that healing power to where it is needed in today's world for all those hearts and minds that may be suffering here today. So without further ado, my friends, we welcome you here today. Amen.
Thank you very much, Darren. And you have me for the reading. Home is where the heart is. For me personally, although I feel comforted and with familiar things around a house, I truly feel at home when I'm with my mom, Marion. On Thursday, just this past Thursday, I recorded a new episode of my podcast, Shades of the Afterlife, that will be coming out on Friday. The subject of deathbed visions is what it's about. And you know how people pass, and just before they do, we hear these stories that they can often reach out, have a smile on their face, seeing someone that we cannot. And they may even say things like, "Oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow." Those were the last words that Steve Jobs spoke as he looked over his sister's shoulder just before he passed. But I learned something on Thursday that I didn't know, and I thought I'd like to share it with you. I began studying hospice Dr. Christopher Kerr. He's the author of the book, Death is But a Dream. He has cared for thousands of patients who, in the face of death, speak of love and grace and home. With over 10 years of research and over 1,400 patients whose stories he's collected, we sleep a lot before we pass, but we also dream before we pass. And it's not just any dreams. We dream about our loved ones who have already passed. We dream about being home. We dream about the pets we've had. And we dream about love. And what's interesting about these dreams is that all the people say that these dreams are more real than any dreams they've ever had. They occur as real as the interactions they are having with the people, like the doctors and nurses and families, when they are not dreaming. These dreams cause the people to feel love, to feel at peace, and no fear before they pass. Isn't that something? I didn't know that, and I'm so thrilled to have learned that. One woman named Rosemary kept dreaming about a trip to a family reunion, and her deceased daughter Beth was there, telling her it's time to pack. In her dream, Rosemary could see Beth preparing her suitcase, and she saw her family members assembling, knowing that they'd all be together soon. In one study, a large group of patients described dead friends and relatives in their dreams as waiting for them, while standing just there in a quiet presence that felt like the tightest, most loving embrace. This past Christmas, when I was paying for my Christmas tree, there was a long line to wait to pay. And I ended up getting into a conversation with a man and his wife. And, you know, one thing leads to another with me, and we got into the conversation about life after death. The woman told me of her sister, and just days before she passed, she would speak of making sure her green dress was clean and ironed so she could pack it, as her family and friends had all been there in the room with her to take her to a magnificent party. So how comforting is this, my friends? Wow. Dr. Kerr says that current medical training doesn't include talking about this. It is about saving lives and an avoidance in the spiritual aspect of dying. I know right now in our Sunday gathering, we have several community members with family members that are very close to passing, and our hearts are definitely with you. Dr. Kerr has a few recommendations. First one, listen, be present, don't invalidate, don't correct, don't say they're hallucinating. Accept that spiritual and emotional changes are as important as the physical decline. Don't interpret. The time for therapy has passed. It may feel awkward to talk or hear about death, but just be there for your loved one. And you know what, you guys, I think that's pretty good advice for the living too. I'm going to leave you with a quote that I wrote in my high school yearbook. It is by author Richard Bach from the book Illusions. Don't be dismayed at goodbyes. A farewell is necessary before you can meet again. And meeting again after moments or lifetimes is certain for those who are friends. Thank you. I'll pass it over to Carrie for the healing.
Thank you very much, Sandra. And Phil and I heard about this interview you did, and we can't wait to listen to it because it sounds like it's got a lot of information and reassurance for people as well. So thank you very much for what you do, Sandra. We're going to enter into our healing. And in our healing, we know there are things happening all around the world, in families, in communities, in homes, in cities and in countries. We're going to ask you to hold as many people as you wish to within your thoughts. You will all have those that are dear to you that need some healing right now. You will all have people around the world, for instance, in Turkey and Syria and Ukraine and many other places around the world that are all in need of healing. But what I'm going to ask you to do is not to think about the dire situation that they're in. They have enough of that already. Let us send that power, that love, that healing. Picture the countries, the cities, the towns, the communities and families and individuals whole, happy and healthy. It's important that we don't send them what they already have. So as hard as it is, let's enter into and listen to the beautiful song that Brian has picked and send that love and healing out. It might feel like you're making no difference at all, but we have hundreds on here and we're going to have many hundreds or thousands watch this. If everybody in this healing moment and during this healing song can send healing in the way that I've just described, then you send that bright light of healing out wherever you are. It matters. What you do in the next few moments matter. What you do every time you sit back and send healing to your loved ones, friends, communities and countries, it matters. You make a difference. You might not think so, but you do. So sit in that silence and allow yourself to feel lifted by the song, moved by the song, because that will allow you to send the healing during the song.
Hi, everybody. Wow, it's hard to actually even talk after that. I love that song. I hate it every time it ends. And Sandra introduced me earlier, but just in case you missed the introduction, my name is Brian Smith. And before we get started, I want to get started with a very short story about who I am and how I came to be here today. So I grew up as a child with a great fear of death. Religious beliefs like original sin and hell actually tormented me. And that fear of death that I would actually even term thanatophobia, which is a hard word to say, led me to a fascination with studying death. And I've studied death for most of my life. Suddenly in 2015, my daughter, who was then 15 years old, Shannon Lane, she passed away in the spirit. And this is my daughter, Shana, behind me. I was lost. I was devastated. I really no longer wanted to be on this earth. And I know that for anyone who's lost a child or someone as close as a child, it could be a spouse, could be a parent, I know you understand what that means. It's as if half of you left with them and all of me wanted to be with her. All I wanted was to be with her again. But I knew I had other responsibilities. I had a wife who's actually on here today. I have another daughter. I've got family. I've got friends. And I quickly realized that I couldn't just sit down and die. I had to keep moving forward. So what I did after Shana passed is I accelerated my studies. And since that day, almost 8 years ago, I've dedicated my life to learning more about the afterlife. And I've learned a lot from our friend Sandra here today, and I'm grateful to be here. And I've taken what I've learned and I've integrated it into my work for like the last 4 years. In the last 4 years, I've been teaching others about the afterlife. And today, as Sandra said, I'm the host of the Grief to Growth podcast. I'm a life coach. I'm a certified grief educator, and I teach something called positive intelligence. I do host a podcast and a YouTube channel, and I write about what I've learned. And I recently launched a program that incorporates all these principles I've learned into a curriculum that I do got my clients through. So I say this to say, I speak to you today as someone who's made this my lifelong study. This is my purpose. Now, I also want to say, I'm a chemical engineer by training. I'm a very rational person. When I was a little kid, I used to take things apart just to put them back together again and see how they worked. Like Sandra, I'm a very rational and a skeptic person. I'm not really woo-woo. I study things. I don't take any of this for granted, and I don't take it on faith. I think faith is great, but I'm the kind of person I need to know. I just can't just believe. So I've studied science, I've studied philosophy, I've studied religion, and also subjective personal experiences like out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, mediumship, afterlife communications, etc. There's a whole body of evidence that leads to the conclusions that I'm going to speak to you about today. So where I sit today, I am 100% confident that we don't die, as Sandra says. I'm 100% confident that we are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. But this experience, while it is temporary, can sometimes be overwhelming, and I acknowledge that. And sometimes we need to be reminded of the greater reality. The overarching truth of our true temporary physical residence is where we are. So now getting on to the topic of the day. The topic of the day is home. And when I say home, that's not with the lowercase h, but home with an uppercase H. So what is home? Well, I've been on this planet long enough to have had several homes. I've had homes in different cities, homes in different states. I've lived in apartments. I've lived in houses where I grew up, the place I grew up with my parents. I've had temporary homes, like when I went away to college and I lived in dorms. And even more temporary homes, like, for example, when you go on vacation. If you think about it, when you go on vacation, you stay in a hotel for like a week. After a week or so, you're coming back to that room. That room kind of feels almost like home for a little while. And then you remember your true home is back in the city where you live. But even none of these places are our true home with a capital H. Now, sometimes, even when we're on vacation, even when we're out having a good time, you get homesick. And even though you're intentionally away from home, you kind of want to be back to where you were. You want to sleep in your own bed. You miss having your own stuff. And even though you're away on your own volition, you long for home. Now, again, home, I think, is relative. When I first moved into the house I'm living in now, where I'm sitting right now, I thought of my old house as home for a while. And then I got used to this being home. And now this is home. When my daughter moved away from college, or we moved away to go to college, I remember one time she said she's going back home and she was going back to her dorm. And it kind of jarred me because I'm like, well, that's not your home. And my point is here, once we're in this physical place that we're in right now, once we're in the bodies that we're in right now, for a while, we start to think of this as home, but it's not really our home. What this world really is, I liken this to a physical, like a walk in the physical is a term that Christian Sundberg uses. This is a temporary experience. It's a trip away from home. You can think of it as an adventure. You could think of it as an excursion. You could think of it as a learning experience, like going away to college or going away to school. But we live in a virtual reality. We live in a simulation. And I was speaking with someone the other day, and they said, are you talking about simulation theory, which is a theory that physicists propose? Well, for me, I don't even think it's theory anymore. This is reality. This physical world that we live in, of course, is very real while we're in it. But physical is a matter of perspective. We happen to live in this world and we think of it as physical, but it's really just mental, or not just mental, it's really mental, it's consciousness. Now, my thinking has been greatly influenced by people like Bernardo Castro, who wrote a great book called Why Materialism is Baloney, and others that have come to the same conclusion by observing reality and using logic, that what we see is not as it appears to be. I've learned in recent years that everything is consciousness. Everything exists within consciousness. And there are different levels of reality, if you will. They're kind of nested in each other, but none of them is actually physical. Physicists have even gotten to the point where they tell us that what we perceive as solid, all the stuff around us, is not really solid. That the chair, for example, that I'm sitting in, the chair that you're sitting in, might feel solid, but they're really vibrating masses of energy. As our technology has gotten better and better, we've gotten deeper and deeper looking into the physical, we realize that what we thought was solid at one time really isn't. When I was in college many, many years ago, we thought that atoms were the smallest individual thing, or smartest indivisible thing. And then we realized there were electrons and neutrons, and then we found out those are made of neutrinos and quarks and all these little tiny particles. But even as we've gotten even deeper into this, we realize that electrons themselves aren't even particles. They're waves of potential. And at the very smallest level, these little things we call particles are actually vibrating bits of energy. Now, for example, a hydrogen atom itself is 99 point, and I'm not going to say it all, but 99.1296 empty space. Everything around us that we perceive as solid is not really solid. So the reason I say this is kind of a projection of a deeper level or of a consciousness that we live in. So why would we come here? Why would we come to this place that's not our home? Well, we come here for a time to experience. We come here to learn, to grow. We come here to learn compassion. We come here to learn love. We come here, as I said, to have experiences. So someone recently asked me, if we're perfect in the afterlife or before we come here, why do we have to come here to grow? Well, I would ask you, what does it mean to be perfect? What is there that couldn't be improved, that couldn't get better? And are we omniscient in the afterlife? Some say we are. Some say that when we die, people who had near-death experiences might say, well, suddenly I knew everything. I knew all the secrets of the universe. But that is actually intellectual knowledge. To be truly omniscient, to truly know everything, you'd have to know what everything is like. So some things you can only learn experientially. To be an omniscient being, to know everything, you'd have to experience pretty much everything. For example, if you're an omniscient being and knew everything, you wouldn't know what it's like to not be able to speak English. If you are never uncomfortable, you couldn't know what it's like to be cold. To know what it's like to receive mercy, you have to be in a position where you need mercy. So hopefully you get my meaning. We need to have these experiences to understand what it's like to have these experiences. And we, my friends, are fractals of a greater consciousness. We are here on a mission to have these experiences, to grow that consciousness. Now, some of us were taught growing up believing that there was a God who was perfect and self-contained and knew everything, and God didn't need anything. I don't think that's necessarily the way that that level of consciousness is. That the consciousness that we are part of is constantly expanding. It's constantly growing, and it's actually growing through our experiences. That reality, that consciousness, that source, whatever you want to call it, it actually needs us to grow. As we grow, it grows. And as we grow our individual consciousness, we grow the collective consciousness. Now, we come here only for a short time. The reason why we're able to leave where we go and come here is because when we're there, we know this is a short experience. We know this experience is temporal. But when we're here, we forget that. And we get attached to things here. But remember, everything here fades away. All the money that we accumulate, the homes that we accumulate, the cars that we rent, that we buy, we're only renting. In fact, our very bodies, we're only renting. We're only going to have these bodies for a short time. And these bodies will fade away as well. But what's eternal is the result of the experiences that we have, the love that we gain, the wisdom that we gain. That goes back with us. And that's the only thing that goes with us. So I mentioned we come here to improve consciousness. And I mentioned we come here to improve consciousness so consciousness can improve itself and improve ourselves. But there's actually more. When I talk to people about this idea, they say, well, I would never sign up for this. There's no way I would sign up to come to this place. This place is stupid. This place is crazy. So let's maybe look at this from a different perspective. I'll give you a couple of examples. Now, when I was younger, I mentioned earlier, I'm a chemical engineer. I went away to college and I actually paid money to get my degree. And it was hard. I chose chemical engineering partly because it was the hardest thing that I could go through. But I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. And as I said, I paid money for that. Now, I also love like reality TV. I love to watch human nature. And there are a couple shows on reality TV, and one's called Naked and Afraid, and the other one's called Alone. And in these shows, they put themselves in extreme conditions. For example, in the show Naked and Afraid, they go into the wilderness wearing nothing. And I mean, they wear nothing. They have no clothes, no shoes, nothing. They get a bag and 2 items. Maybe they'll have a pot and a knife. And they try to survive for 21 days. Now, when I explain this program to people, they say, who are these crazy people that do this? They must be doing it for the money. Well, in that show, there actually is no money. There's no prize in the show, in that particular show. They do it for the adventure. They do it for the challenge. They do it to improve their skills. They make themselves uncomfortable on purpose to see how they stack up. The other show I mentioned earlier is called Alone. And in that sense, it's even more extreme. These people go to Canada in the winter with a few items. Now, they do have clothes and they have tents and things, but they're literally alone. They take a camera with them. They film themselves. There's no crew. There's no backup. There are bears. There are wolves. There are all kinds of predators. And they go out and they put themselves up against nature. And every time I've watched this show, every single contestant comes out changed. And I mean changed not just physically, because they lose a lot of weight, but they are changed mentally, spiritually, emotionally. The solitude that they go through, the hardship that they go through actually hones them into different people. And they're different for the rest of their lives. And the last example I'll give about the way we set up challenges for ourselves, today is Super Bowl Sunday. I love sports. I love watching people compete at anything. But have you ever thought about how silly sports are? That we go out, these big men, and they put on these pads and they hit each other and they tackle each other. And one team's trying to move the ball one way and the other team's trying to move the ball the other way. And it's all just fun, right? It's all just to see if we can do it. They risk life for them to do this. We pay money to watch it, all for the challenge. This is part of human nature. I think we seek challenges. So that's why we come here. Now, we often refer to the next life as the afterlife. And that's fine from the perspective of when we're here, right? This life is here, and then we have the afterlife. Now, more accurately, there's actually one life, and I've heard it termed the everlife. But I actually started calling this phase of life the between life. When we come here, it's between. We come from one place, we come here, and we go back to the same place. So this is really the between life. And the other day I was speaking with a gentleman and we were talking about my daughter who had transitioned, and I like the term transitioned and graduated, and things that let us know that our loved ones don't truly die. And he used the term continuation day to describe the day my daughter passed in the spirit. And I love that term. She continues, just like Carly Simon mentioned in the song earlier, that what we see as death is only the limit of our sight. It's just the horizon. When a ship goes across the horizon, it doesn't disappear. It doesn't go away. It's just out of our sight. I've heard the term risen used to describe the dead. I love that term, risen. The other day, I heard someone use the term moved upstairs. All of these phrases remind us that this is not our real life, that this is not our home, that we each have our time to go through this, and then we each have our time to go home. We come here to go through these hardships. We come here to come out stronger. We come here to support each other and lean on each other as we make that journey home. So I'm not really an adventurous person. The other day, someone asked me a question like, what's the most adventurous thing you've ever done? And I really had to think about that because I don't like adventure. My answer was, it's probably scuba diving. I'm not into skydiving or extreme hiking or even running marathons. But I do want to say this to you. You may feel like you're not an adventurous person either. But if you're here, if you're listening to me, if you're within the sound of my voice, if you're on the planet Earth, you are an adventurous person. We are the baddest of the bads. We are the tough guys, people that choose to incarnate. We are pretty special people. Christian Sundberg, who I mentioned earlier, wrote a book called A Walk in the Physical, and he's got these pre-life memories or between life memories. And in his experience, he talks about being on the other side and what I would call the real life. And he's walking around one day, metaphorically speaking, and he comes across this being. This being was different. This being was like shiny and bright and just, exuding wisdom. And Christian wondered what made this being different. And what he realized when he asked the being was this being had a physical experience, had incarnated, and it had changed him. It had grown his capacity. It had grown his wisdom. It had grown his capacity to love. When I interviewed Natalie Sudman for my program, she talked about the perspective from the other side, their perspective of people that come to Earth. And this is what she had to say in her book, The Application of Impossible Things. This physical life is a unique experience, and it's entrancing from the perspective of expanded awareness. It is utterly lovely. It is deliciously strange. It's challenging and wildly exciting. The razor focus required to remain in the collective physical is intensely satisfying for our whole self, for our higher self. Physical reality, where we are, is a balancing trick, a performance high, an intensely concentrated speed test of complex skills. We are each an F-22 pilot flying 50 feet off the deck through an impossibly narrow canyon. That's what it's like to be in the physical, and that's what you and I are going through. So I say this to you, my friends, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling homesick, it's okay. when I was a child, my favorite movie was The Wizard of Oz. And the song that Stephanie Mills sang is from the movie The Wiz, which came from The Wizard of Oz. That's probably why it's one of my all-time favorite songs. But when that movie came on, it came on once a year. And when I grew up, there was no DVR, there was no VCR. You either saw the movie or you missed it till the next year. And I always made sure I was in front of the TV that night that movie came on. And if you know the movie, if you remember in the movie, Dorothy is on an adventure. Dorothy is taking this adventure and she feels weak. She feels small. She feels powerless. And she meets these other beings that feel weak and they feel small and they're powerless. And they take this journey, and through the hardships that they face, they realize that the things that they were seeking were actually with them all along. They're seeking a brain, they're seeking a heart, they're seeking courage. And they have to go through these trials to actually exhibit these qualities. They have to go through these trials to actually understand that they already have them with them and to grow these qualities. But they take this journey. But if you remember at the end of the movie, Dorothy wakes up in her bed with her loved ones all around her. And she realized that it was, quote, just a dream. That's what this life is like. So I want to review the lyrics of the song by Stephanie Mills. And I'm just going to read a little bit of this. She says, "Oh, if you're listening, God, please don't make it hard to know if we should believe the things that we see. Tell us, should we try to stay or should we run away? Or will it be better just to let them be? Living here in this brand new world might be a fantasy, but it's taught me to love, and it's real to me. And I've learned we must look inside our hearts to find a world full of love, a world like yours, like mine, like home. When I think of home, my friends smiling down on me, giving me their energy. When I think of home, I think of a peaceful world and I enjoy all around. I think of a peaceful world and joy all around me. When I think of home and love that we can never share, and love that we share can never, never be taken away from me. When I think of home, I just sit down and think, and it gets down to my bones. When I think of home, I can hear my friends telling me, Stephanie, please sing my song. This is a strange place that we're in. This is a strange journey that we're on. And sometimes we forget while we're here. We forget we're surrounded by people that love us, or these people in spirit, our past loved ones, like my daughter, Shayna, our spirit guides, our families that we've left home that we don't even remember while we're in the physical. When we go home, we'll see them again and we'll say, oh yeah, I haven't seen you in a long time. Now, I'm about to wrap up here, and I want to leave you with a comment that I recently received from someone who had a near-death experience, and they posted this on my YouTube channel, and it just filled me with joy. It said, while I was there, I went way out into the cosmos, beyond the stars and the planet, to where it was total darkness. And though I could see perfectly, I was able to look back at myself from above. I was on tiptoe, leaning as far as possible over the edge of the wisdom of God, as one would go to a wall or as one would go to a well to gaze down into it as far as I could see. I was wearing blue jeans, and I'm 23, though I was 57 at the time I died. And it had been years since I'd worn jeans. I was face to face, eye to eye when I was healed. Though I was first shown my family as forms, once together, we all had bodies and faces, and we loved as we were always meant to be, laughing from that deep place of joy and then knowing that we were safe no matter what. And I recalled trying to remember, what was it that ever made me feel unsafe? And I couldn't bring to mind one single thing. It's an awesome place of love and happiness because we are totally united in truth. So we're here for a reason. If you're here today, you're here for a purpose. And I know it's a long journey, but it's a journey that's worth the adventure. It will pay off in the end in ways that we can't even comprehend at the moment. When you're feeling overwhelmed, remember the words of Ram Dass. We're all just walking each other home. So let's hold hands and make it together. So in that spirit, I'd like to offer a little gift to you. It's a short guide that I have on a few things that I've found that work for me when I'm in grief or actually at any time. So if you go to my website, www.grieftogrowth.com, that's grief, the numeral 2, growth.com/Sandra, you can download this guide for free. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful Sunday.
Brian, thank you. I don't think there's enough words to say thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to press your raise hand button, we can show Brian some love that way. And Brian, just on behalf of everybody, that is a standing ovation of hundreds of people. Ladies and gentlemen, life is hard. It is hard. And Brian's book title, website, podcast, etc., Grief to Growth, is a perfect example of who he is. because grief is difficult, but out of that grief can stem such beauty, and then to be of service, Brian, in the so many ways that you are, and the impact you had on myself, and I trust everybody else, is tremendous. Thank you, my friend, from the bottom of my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to our demonstration of mediumship now. And it's just a beautiful time to remember those who are home. And home is all around us, as we see each and every Sunday. Carrie and Phil are so gracious to be our mediums most every week. And the spirit world works in unique ways with them, with mediums. If this is your first time with us, I'm going to explain how this goes. If you've been here before, just pretend you've never heard this. The spirit world representatives will come through, a handful of them usually, on our Sundays to let all of us know that the spirit world is not only real, but they are active parts of our lives. They will use Carrie and Phil's thoughts and feelings and memories and sounds, perhaps, tastes, perhaps, smells, perhaps, and put a picture and feelings in their mind. You'll hear them give an initial few bits of information about the spirit person that has contacted them. So we want you to be on the edge of your seat and really listen in. The spirit world knows who's with us on Sunday. They do. If you can understand everything that they have said in their initial few bits of information, as somebody that you know that no longer walks this earth, we want you to press your raise hand button. Now, I know a lot of hands are already raised. If you want practice raising that hand button, see how it works on your side, you can press the raise hand button. And then it should say lower hand, and you can put your hand down. Those few bits of information are important because it could be a friend, it could be a relative. Sometimes it's somebody distant, but that we know or know of. If your soul is saying, oh, that's for me, go ahead when the time comes and press your raise hand button. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes to distinguish who our friend from the afterlife is here for. But once we narrow it down, I will ask you to press your unmute button. Now, don't be alarmed. You don't see that button yet. It takes me pressing something on my side to make that happen. It is safe to be part of our Sunday gathering. We don't need to see your face. Don't worry about your camera will not go on, but we like hearing your voice. Carrie and Phil will do their very best to give the information and memories as the spirit person has shown to them. So when they give some of these bits, all we need from you is a good hearty yes or no with the information that they've given you, or it could be I don't know. There is no magic formula to have 100% of the information that comes through and out of their mouth be received. So like Phil and Carrie teach in their weekly classes, don't be afraid to say no. It just means new opportunity for them to look inside for the information. We do medium demonstrations on our Sunday gathering to let everyone know that our loved ones are people still. Yes, they are a living, healthy, well, whole, happy, and they are very much part of our lives. Now, I'm not stupid. I'm not, because every Sunday, I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if one of my people will come through. We often have several hundred people at our Sunday gatherings, and everybody's got their prayer. Oh, can my person come through? The thing is your person is standing right next to you right now. They're with you, or your people. The people that come through on our Sundays, I find, have such interesting messages and interesting evidence to let people know that they are around, that they speak on behalf of all of our loved ones, that we're here with you. So please don't wait till Sundays to talk to your loved one. They can hear you, they can feel you, they are part of your life. They communicate in such gentle ways by putting memories in your mind, or you might get a whiff of a cologne, you might feel a little kiss on your cheek or tap on your head. It's subtle, but you'll see as we watch Carrie and Phil work that they do work through our imagination. They do. So like I said, just give a yes or no to the information that they give. Don't be afraid to say no, of course. And don't give any other information. We get so excited on a Sunday. We want to share our story and share our loved one, but don't do that. Let them do the work. So everyone leaves today knowing that they are in touch with the spirit world. And it's a beautiful opportunity for Carrie and Phil to give a voice back to the people that are voiceless right now. Our loved ones are happy, whole, alive, well, part of our life. They are at home and they're going to be the first people that we see when it's our time. So for this Sunday, we're going to play a song that Brian has picked by Mr. Michael Jackson. And as we listen to this song, just imagine your loved ones close, loving you, and just being together, because it's real. Everything Brian said, it's real. Home is real. We will see them again. Here's our song. Great song by Michael Jackson. Thank you, Brian, for that. Anybody else dancing in their seat? Great. Well, we have our demonstration of mediumship, and we have Phil Dykes up first. Hello, my dear friend, Phil.
Hello, my dear friend, Sandra. How are you? You well?
Perfect.
Fabulous. Absolutely. And I've got to say, I am even feeling better because just listening to Brian speak is always wonderful, but somebody that makes so much sense is out of this world. So thank you so much for what you shared there, Brian, because it's not just your investigations and your research and your truth, but to hear somebody's passion and heart speak is unbelievable. So thank you so much for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time to work again for that unseen world and to bring them very much alive as they are. And as Sandra often explains, we never know how they will come through or what they'll have to say or what evidence they will bring. But it's always a pleasure as a medium to work on their behalf because we get to, for a few moments, walk in their footsteps and see life, how they lived it and how they celebrated it. So it's always a pleasure to work in that way. And as I'm saying that, I'm smiling inside because we never know if it's actually going to work. We never take it for granted. It's always that pleasure, but we still have that fear and that doubt in there as we work with the spirit world until they make that contact with us or impress our minds. And it's fantastic because I've just heard the spirit world say, shut up and get on with it. But there we go. Okay, so they can be clear and blunt at times as well. I do believe as I become aware of the spirit world here, I know that I have a mother coming forward. And I know with mother, I know that she was, I've got a character. I know here that she wants to come forward and speak. And I'm just saying, tell me a little bit more about you first, because I know as I connect with her, I know she has a cancer. But I do want to say that it's almost this condition she has. I'm not saying she ignored it, but I know she sort of didn't want to give into it. So I know that she carried on fighting. And if you asked her about it, she would deny it. But I do believe that she would have gone into work religiously, even when she was quite ill, because I do believe she just wanted to carry on. And I actually believe that she would have worked within a legal profession at times. So I know I've got mum, I know there's cancer, I know she worked within a legal capacity here. And I actually feel quite strongly that I should be speaking to somebody in America because I've got that little bit more because I feel I'm talking about US law.
Thank you very much, Phil. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know who Phil is talking about? If this loved one resonates with you, go ahead and press your raise hand button, please.
So it always takes just a few seconds as that person thinks and says, is it my loved one? The only thing that I can change here, ladies and gentlemen, is the relationship. But I still feel that if I'm not with mother, it by the mother-in-law, because I just feel there was a cancer and I know there's a legal capacity that she works in.
Thank you, Phil. All right, friends, sometimes you have to think out of the box in this one. Give it a think. And if this is tugging at your soul, go ahead and press your raise hand button.
I hope everyone's listening, because I just feel that she was either a legal secretary, but I know even where I'm talking about legal and it's always important, I actually feel that there's just that little bit more with it, because I actually feel it's to do with the governance of the United States. I do believe that.
Well, we have Fran's hand up. Fran, if you could press your unmute button. Fran?
No, it's
There
not
you
me.
go. We can hear you. Hello.
Hello, but I think I did it by mistake.
Oh, that's fine. That's absolutely no problem.
Sorry.
That's
No
absolutely
problem.
fine. Don't apologize. It sometimes happens, Fran. So thank you for that. So I'm going to look at this again because I can't change too much. I know that there's a legal capacity here. I do still feel that I'm with mother-in-law, and I feel there's a cancer, but I know that she would have battled on through it. I know she would have gone into work. I know I want to be connected to America as well with it. And when I say connected to, I believe that she lived in America.
Dana has her hand raised. Thank you, everyone, for your patience, too. I want to make sure this goes to the right person. Dana, if you could press your unmute button. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hi.
Dana. Hello. Do
Yes,
you understand what I've said?
a mother-in-law.
It's a mother-in-law, and she worked in a legal capacity, though.
Not at the time of her.
Not at the time, but she did do at one point in her life.
Yes,
That's fine. And would you understand where your mother-in-law, Dana, was a very strong lady?
yes,
Because I want to say that she even when I went back in to relook at it, I couldn't change anything. But I know there would have been either at some point the legal work that she did would have had something to do with the American Constitution or to do
Yes.
with that side of things.
no,
You don't.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Then I've got to
Yeah.
stick with what I've got, Dana. So thank
Got
you for
it.
coming forward, but I don't feel I'm with you because I know here I'm holding a little bit of evidence that I know will go next with that.
Okay, thank you, Dana. Rosie, you have your hand raised. If you could press your unmute button, Rosie. Hi, Rosie.
Hi, Sandra. Hi, Phil.
Hello, Rosie. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So you understand everything I've said?
I do. The reason I hesitated was because, again, similar to Dana, she was not working at the time of her death.
Okay, but do you understand where she, okay, probably my words that I used, but do you understand where she was ill, but she still went into work?
No,
She didn't.
no.
'Cause
But what you described, she did for a living at one point.
Okay, then would you understand where she was? Because I want to look at this because I just feel, Rosie, that she was a very strong, independent lady.
That is correct.
And I want to say she wouldn't take no for an answer and she wouldn't let the cancer beat her.
Yes.
Because that's where I want to go with it. Because I just feel that she could be so strong, she wouldn't accept people's pity either.
Absolutely.
Okay. But I also know going back to that work, she was very passionate about it.
She was.
And I also know she was an advocate for those less fortunate in life as well.
Oh, yes.
Because it just feels I'm not material minded, as in money minded. I want to serve people the best that I can.
Yes.
Okay. Would I also be right in saying there's a legal governance with the United States, though?
What she did, yes, she worked in a court system at a local.
Because I just feel,
yeah.
But would you understand where she did more than that? There was either a unique case or something to do with high up officials.
Not specifically, but she had very strong opinions of everything government.
That's fine, because I know the governance has got to be right. I know it's got to do with the ethics and morals. I know it's got to do with that legal system. So she was being not just an advocate for those less fortunate, but she must have either worked on changing laws or looking at certain laws.
I'm not sure about that, but like I said, she had very strong opinions about
That's
all the
fine,
laws. Yeah.
because I know here, and I know where you said she had strong opinions. I know in America you have this is, you have to forgive me here, some very high judges as well, don't you? Like a bench of 12 judges.
Yes, Supreme Court.
Okay.
Yes, Supreme Court.
And I know she was interested in that, not as in applying or working on there, but I know she had her opinions towards that.
Absolutely.
That's fine, because that's where I want to be, because it all seems to come together in my mind. But I know with her that she not only was a strong-minded person in her job, but I want to say in life too.
Yes,
To the point of where family was really important.
it was.
And I know with the theme is home here, and I know that it's almost where she wanted that happy home and ruled the home as well.
Yes.
And I want to say that having family around and family celebrations where people would get together, and I'm not talking just about birthdays, but I feel people would come, days were organized just to come together.
Yes.
But I also feel as well with this, that that's very strong in you as well.
It is.
Would I be right in saying this is your mum?
No, mother-in-law.
It's mother, because I keep on hearing mum all the time. Okay, so okay, it's your mother-in-law. Would you? I'm going to put this down. Would you understand though that she wouldn't have those differences? You were her daughter.
Yes.
Because again, I know you said mother-in-law, but Sheikah says I'm more like a mum. So I know that she looked out for your well-being, and she was almost where she kept an eye on you and your life.
Absolutely.
And I want to say that you were on her list for ringing people if there were some problems.
Yes.
Because I know she felt so strongly towards you. And I know you've helped members of the family since she's passed.
Yes.
Because I know that sense of advocacy is still with her, and she's thanking you for your part in it as well. Would I be right in saying, though, because there's something I want to go back to, is this fighting spirit, even to the moment she passed, she didn't want to give up on life.
So true.
And again, it's this impression I get with her that even in those latter stages, she was still telling people what they should do, how they should do it, even in preparation for after she went.
Yes.
And I know here you've had impressions of her directly to you from the spirit world as well.
I have.
And that's what I want to leave you with, is the knowledge that she still has that direct communication with you. You're still that first port of call, to give you that impression of there's things a little bit of a miss in the family. Rosie, would I be right in saying you would understand Walter as well in the spirit world?
No.
That's fine. That'll be my next contact. So I'm going to leave
Okay.
your mother-in-law's love with you. In fact, I cringe every time I say mother-in-law. I'm going to just say I'm going to leave your mum's love with you and say thank you very much for allowing me to.
Thank you, Phil.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Rosie. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you for coming forward, Rosie. Good. I want to, as I correctly heard, I know I have a gentleman here called Walter, and just as I work with him, I get the impression of dad. So I want to say Walter is dad, and I just want to say that he isn't a man of many words. He spoke his mind, and that was it. And again, here he wouldn't get involved with small talk or tickle tackle. It just feels I want to. He's quite a disciplined and focused gentleman.
Thank you, Phil. We have two ladies, Marceline and Sophia, with their hands raised.
And they both understand that it's dad that I said. Okay, let's just have a look at this for a second then. But I also know, thank you, I'm also aware that dad here liked to be very organized. And again, I get the sense There would have been a home office with him, but I also feel as well, like the garage and things like this would have all been organized and neat and tidy.
Thank you. All right, ladies, you can still take that information. Marceline and Sophia. Just saying your name just in case you accidentally press that raise hand button. Both hands remain up, Phil.
That's fine. And I know the person I want to speak to would have memories of cleaning the yard and the grass and grass of things with the leaves and the things. So I know there's a memory where you would have helped Dad around the house.
Thank you. Okay, one hand went down, so we're going to bring in Sophia. Marceline, you just keep listening in. Sophia, if you could press your unmute button. Hi, Sophia.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello, Sophia. You understand everything I've said?
Everything, yes.
Fantastic. And would you understand, because there's a little bit I've been holding on to, that you were like your dad's shadow? Everywhere your dad went, you went.
Everywhere I could, yeah.
That's fine, because I get this impression that you're like the twinkle of his eye. But I know with your dad, he liked to do things logically and rationally.
Yes.
And I want to say everything was planned out. And I want to say even where we have the memory of doing the garden and tidying the yard, we did it structurally. There was always a method to it.
Yes.
Because it's almost where he would tell you beforehand, this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to do it in this order.
Yes.
Good. But I also feel as well that he didn't like things left untidy.
No, he did not.
Because I also feel as no, he did not, or he did.
Oh, I'm sorry. He did not like things left untidy.
That's fine, because I know here, because I in my mind, I'm seeing things that are left out and I can see him tidying them up, because he liked to know where things were in the house.
Yes.
And I also believe that his job would have either been like an official of some kind in a business.
No.
It wasn't. Bear with me. Would you understand where there was paperwork involved in your dad's job?
No. No, I wouldn't say that was important.
Not saying it's not important. Bear with me one second. Because there just feels here where he didn't like things lying about, he liked things filed away or put away properly as well, not just in the garage with tools and things.
Yes, he liked things put away.
Because I know here it's his mindset as well. But I also believe with your dad as well, that he was very thoughtful, not just in his work, but everything he did. It's almost like he thought it through before we went on a trip or we went out anywhere or he had to fetch errands.
Yes, I think so.
Because again, there's this sense where if he was going to do something, he would have like a list, or he was organized and he would do things in order.
Yes.
Because I also feel with him that it's helped you structure your life that way as well.
Yes.
Because I know that he did it purposely to organize you and to get you in that mindset. Would you understand with your dad, before he passed, you were with him?
Yes, not at the last minutes, but I was with him before he passed.
Because I just feel just before he passed, you were with him. But I know it's important. And would you understand where your dad wasn't able to converse with you?
Correct.
Because I get the sense I need to let you know that you were there. And I know I heard your words too. And I know before you left him, you gave him a kiss as well.
Yes.
Because I know he lets me feel this. But I also believe that you still talk to your dad in the spirit world.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I know you've been talking to him just recently, and this is why Dad's coming back. But I want to go back to the beginning here. I actually feel that your dad used to walk you around the neighborhood as well.
Yes.
And I want to say it wasn't just we went for walks, but he must have introduced you to different types of plants and flowers and trees.
Yes, definitely.
Because I know here he's pointing things out that I recognize, but I know it's his methodical way of educating you. And I know he's still doing this from the spirit world. And I know, and Sophia, if I said you're a very private person,
Oh, yes.
Because he's just said, keep my nose out and deliver what he says. I know he's around you, and I know he's still trying to educate you to private matters that are taking place, and to watch where you feel strongly which way to go with that as well.
Okay.
And would I be right in saying you have some old black and white photographs of your dad?
I don't physically have them.
But would you understand where they are?
Yes.
And would I also be right in saying with the photographs, Dad used to go through photographs with you, showing you different members of the family?
Yes.
And when you were looking at those photographs, there must have been some old black and white photographs as well.
Almost all of them.
That's fine. And would you understand where in those photographs there was old premises like mills or sawmills as well?
Yes.
Because again, and I want to talk about, you should understand Jim, or the name of James in the spirit world as well,
Oh.
that is in association with your dad, like a friend of his. And there should be a Robert as well.
I can't remember either one right now.
Okay, that's fine. But in those photographs, would it be right in saying there's the old-fashioned pickup trucks as well?
Oh, yes.
That's fine, that I know what I'm seeing, because again, it's just his impression. But I know Dad's here to let you walk down memory lane, to remind you of things of the past, to help you with the present right now. So I'm going to leave his love with you, Sophia, and say thank you very much for allowing me to work with you and commune with your father.
Thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. It's an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Phil.
That's fine. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to hand over to my lovely wife, Miss Carrie MacLeod.
Oh, thank you so much, Phil. We love you. We'll be hearing back from you in just a little while. Always delightful to see your beautiful Valentine, Carrie.
Hello, Sandra.
Hello, Carrie.
And Brian, I cannot put into words the talk that you've given. The comments, I haven't been able to read all of them because I'm sat over there. But your talk will have done so much for so many, not just here, but in all the replays. I'm sure it will be a point of reference for many. So thank you for what you do and what you're doing. Thank you for being here. Okay. I know as I begin to work with the spirit world, I know I have a young lady here, and I do feel this young lady's passing was not of natural causes. I do feel that there is a sense here of I'm looking for somebody in our audience who knows a young lady who would have died by her own hands, but I do know she would have been found outside. And I also know she would have been on her own when she did this. And I actually feel I need to be in the United States of America. I actually feel there would be a bridge involved as well. Does that make sense to anybody in our audience?
Thank you, Carrie. All right, friends, if you can understand this information, go ahead and press your raise hand button. No hands up yet, Carrie.
Okay. I cannot change too much with what I've got, because I know that she popped in very briefly as Phil was working. Okay, let me look at this slightly differently. Somebody in our audience must know a young woman or a young lady in the spirit world. Do not feel that she's particularly old. I do know that she passes by her own hands, but there must be a memory of somebody here meeting her or regularly walking over a bridge, because I can actually see the bridge. But I know there would be memories of where you live, knowing exactly where this bridge was, if I take away the fact that she passed near on this bridge, would somebody understand in our audience the being near the bridge and this having a strong memory for you and this other person, this lady in the spirit world? She's a young lady, actually.
Thank you, Carrie. Ladies and gentlemen, this might be one of those thinking out of the box or thinking back into your past. The spirit world knows who is in our Sunday gathering today. Yes, they do. There are no hands up, Carrie.
Okay. Then I have to say, I do believe, Sandra, it's one of those moments where there must be somebody in our audience either not putting up their hand because they're shy, or is away making a cup of tea or coffee and boiling the kettle and is away, because I cannot change what I have here. I do know that I do feel over the Atlantic, your side of the Atlantic.
Kayla has her hand raised, so we'll bring in Kayla. Kayla, if you could press your unmute button. Hi, Kayla.
Hi.
Thanks for raising your hand.
So
Hi.
I didn't know this person personally, but they were a part of our community and I helped kind of look for her. But that I don't know. And I'm in Canada, so I don't know if that's
Okay. And
yeah.
you would understand that she died by her own hands.
I don't know if I ever got, like, that's what they said.
But you would understand the bridge.
She was near a bridge and apparently they say that she jumped into the water, but I don't know for sure.
Okay, and I do feel that I'm not in a city. I do feel out of a city. I feel not quite rural, but I do feel out of a city.
Yeah, on the outer skirt.
Okay. And Kayla, would you understand Dad in the spirit world?
Like my dad or her dad?
Yes.
I didn't know her personally.
No, but would you understand Father in the spirit world for you?
No.
Okay. Something's not feeling quick because I know I have a gentleman coming. Would you know of father-in-law in the spirit world, Kayla?
I have grandfathers, but
no, that would only work, Kayla, if one of them was particularly close to you, because I do feel a closeness with you.
Okay.
No, it's not feeling right.
Sure,
Thank you, Kayla. I do feel
yeah.
that. Thank you for putting your hand up.
No
it's
worries.
incredibly important when we work with the spirit world that we don't allow you to go home with somebody else's loved one. But also, if we think about it from the spirit world, just as people begin to open their minds and think, if there's a person in the spirit world desperately wanting to make contact, if I allow it to go to the wrong person because it makes my life easier, then there's a great disservice done there, because somebody in the spirit world's looking at their loved one right now or their friend and wants to make contact. So can I ask once again, I know I have a young lady here, a young girl here in the spirit world. I do feel there is such a strong sense of this bridge going over a piece of water. I do know that if it's not by her own hands, there must be a question about how it took place. And I cannot change much more than that. And people that know Phil and I will know that this is going to be a very long evening.
It's all right. That's what we call integrity. Oh, well, I unmuted Jane here, but just after I did, a couple other hands went up. Hi, Jane.
Okay.
Hello.
So you're not in the States, Jane, because you're in New Zealand.
That's correct, Carrie. Yes.
Okay. Let me just check this out. Would you understand this young lady in the spirit world who passed by her own hands?
She did pass by her own hand, and there was a bridge involved.
Okay. And you would understand Dad in the spirit world as well?
Yes.
You would also know there was some question over this young girl's passing.
I don't know.
Okay, but you would know that it was a rural area. It was not in a city.
It's just slightly out of the
Okay.
city.
And with your dad, Jane, your dad was very quiet, a very quiet man.
Yes.
Because I feel that this girl has come in, but you knew this young lady.
I don't know that I met her. She was part of our community.
Okay, because I know as she comes in, if you have somebody you can check, her personality is very strong. Your dad's personality is very gentle and very quiet. I know that your dad brings in the memories of in the area where you are, you and your dad must have gone out. In fact, your dad didn't live in exactly the same area that you do now.
That's correct.
Because where your dad lived, I know it must have been even more rural.
At one time it was rural for him.
Because I get the sense from your dad that he would have had memories of you and him going out for the day.
I don't know, just by ourselves.
Okay. And I do know that it gives me the sense of you walking out. When your dad passed, Jane, you must have not been able to be with him.
That's correct.
Because as I work with your dad here, it's incredibly private, incredibly quiet, but I know that there is a sense from him of not having that time with you. But Jane, you would know right now, and I'm not predicting, you would know right now somebody who is not incredibly
Yes.
And you have been sending thoughts there, because I know from the spirit side, I know you know all about the spirit world. You've grown up knowing about the spirit world, so I'm not going to say anything of that sort to you, but it's your dad's way of saying from the spirit world, thank you for what you're doing, because within the last 36 hours, you must have been sending out thoughts to the family as well as the person.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to, because it took me a little time to find you, Jane, I'm going to say thank you very much for allowing me to do that for you. And thank you for putting up your hand.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, I do feel as if I have Dad here, and I do know the name Thomas or Tom would be closely related with Dad. And I get this sense with Dad that he was quite a man of stature. He was quite a tall man, and I know he's built quite well. But I also get the sense, I know today is Super Bowl, but he must have had a collection, or at least more than many caps here, because I can see him with a number of caps on. But I'm not saying Dad's name is Thomas or Tom, but I know that this Tom would be closely related to him.
Thank you, Carrie. All right, friends, who understands this information? Press your raise hand button. Well, we have another Jane with her hand raised. Jane, if you could unmute yourself. Hello, Jane.
Hi, Sandra. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Jane. You understand everything I've said?
Yes, so far.
You understand with Dad, and you understand the name Thomas or Tom?
Yes.
And you know that your dad would have had quite a number of caps?
Yes.
But I know he would have been a strong sports fan.
Yes.
And he would have very much known the calendar, and in actual, you would have known, he would have known the calendar for sports events.
Yes.
And I actually want to say something with your dad must have had to have been changed because of a sports event. You're not sure?
Not sure.
Okay. I have a great sense with your dad that he had, and he would have had a particular team that he followed.
Oh, yes.
And I am stateside, is that right, Jane?
Yes.
Okay, because I feel like I know my friend is very near Boston. It's practically the only American football team I know. Is it the Boston Sox?
Red Sox.
The Red Sox. They are Boston, aren't they?
That's Boston.
Yeah. But your dad would have very much had times where you and him would have taken in games.
When I was much younger.
Yeah. And you would understand it being on the East Coast.
Yes.
No. And would it have been the Boston team?
Yes.
Okay. Because I keep seeing that. And although it's the Red Sox Boston, there must also be another cap you remember having the Red Bull on it. Not Red Bull as in give you wings, but there must be a team with a Red Bull as its logo.
I guess I'm not a huge sports fan. I think that would be the football team.
And I know you must have been looking at photographs with your dad with those caps on.
Well, to be honest, the caps weren't sports related, but he had a lot of caps.
Okay.
That was his signature.
Okay, because
attire.
I know he's got them this way, he's got them turned, he's got them that way, because I know that way symbolized him going to do something else. But it feels like he was your protector. It feels like he was very much there and larger than life.
Yeah, I think that's pretty
because
accurate.
It feels like if anybody had spoken against members of his family, he would have seen to it to correct them.
Yes, he would have.
I know that your dad feels very, very passionate about the sports, but I also know he's very passionate about his family.
Yes, he was very family oriented. Mm-hmm.
But you would know within his family there would have been a split or a difference of opinion that created a split within the family.
There were splits. Yes.
Okay, if that doesn't jump to mind, Jane, you would know around recently within your family, since your dad's passing, there has been a split. Or
yes.
A difference.
Yes.
I know your dad brings this in so strongly. I know your dad's such a family orientated person. I know too, you must have memories of you and dad playing out the front of the yard, front of the house.
No.
Then where your dad lived, there must have been a yard where you could park a number of cars, but I actually feel that there would have been memories of him playing with children out the front of his home.
Oh, that's not him, but it's funny. That's exactly what the neighbors across the street do. They use their front yard.
Okay, then if that's the case, Jane, you must have been watching out and speaking about your dad at those times, because I know your dad wants to let you know he sees you, he sees what's happening, he wants to acknowledge that he's there. I also know your dad must have had a signature drink or a signature.
Yes. Yes.
Because I know he's toasting you, and as I check what he's toasting you with, it feels like a concoction of things put together.
Yeah, it was mixed. Yes,
I do feel it's mixed because I feel like but it had to be very specific measurements.
Probably, and that was earlier
okay.
in his life.
I know with your dad, towards the end of his life, his drinking habits, not to say he drank lots, and his eating habits changed because of his health. Somewhat, not because I feel like he had this sense of not getting quite what I wanted, but I do know he was cheeky in that way that he snuck some of what he wasn't allowed, or he was treated to some things that he wasn't allowed.
I think that's true. I think he
indulged. Jane, when you were with your dad, you would have memories of him. You would have memories of taking him some treats or some things that you knew he liked.
Yes, when I was younger.
Because I know he brings in those memories of you bringing him things he wasn't meant to have, but he did. I also know that as he Your dad must have been somewhat confused within his mind, Jane, at the end.
Yes, he
Because
was.
nothing much is making sense with his memory of the timeline. I'm trying to understand where he's going with it. It's just a bit jumbled up in my mind. But I also know that he has paid you a visit since his passing.
Yes, I'm sure. He's come in my dreams, but yes.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I know he for sure, that was the topic of Sandra's interview this week. I know for sure that he visits you, that he is there with you. And I know for sure that whatever's happening within the family, the reason he turns up with a cat this way, then turning it meaning business, is he is supporting you resolve what this is, because I know in some way you've been left to try and sort this out.
Yes, that's true. And he was a huge peacemaker in the family, in the entire family.
Please know that he does bring that peace, he does bring that mediator, but he also does mean business. I'm going to leave that with you, Jane. And say
Thank you.
For
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It is an absolute pleasure to be part of today's gathering. Thank you for the theme, Sandra, and thank you for the songs, Brian, and for your address. Truly was a pleasure to be part of. Very humbling.
Oh, I agree. And Brian actually picked the theme. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Phil, always for being so generous, connecting the two worlds. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, our loved ones are around. How would we live our life really knowing that they are alive, they are fine, they've just taken a trip home before we're going to get there? I think it leaves a lot of possibilities for our life, having that trust and having that faith. So just a few brief announcements. First of all, don't forget to check out Brian's site, grief2growth.com. He's got great stuff. Besides being a coach, he's got his book, he's got a podcast with, I don't even know, hundreds of episodes. There's hundreds of things on his YouTube channel. He is a giver. So please enjoy that. Our home base is wedon'tdie.com. There you can find many things. You can sign up for next week's Sunday gathering. You can find out about our online classes. I released 3 new episodes of podcasts this past week. You can go to the radio show channel, check that out. We've got a Facebook group now of over 7,000 beautiful, fabulous members. Join us. So much going on. This week on Tuesday, Scott Milligan is going to do Sitting for Power Hours. On Friday, he'll do a demonstration of trance mediumship with also Sitting for Healing. Carrie and Phil are going to be in Vancouver soon. They'll be in Toronto later on in the year, but our tutors will be traveling. You can see them live, study with them online, all kinds of good things. All at wedon'tdie.com. Quick shout out to our beautiful people who have donated towards our Sunday gathering. We never beg for money. Oh, no, we don't. But I tell you, we do appreciate it. And it makes it more available to people worldwide. So those of you who have given, you know who you are. And from the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you. So I'd like to turn it over to Phil right now for some words for the week.
Thank you, Sandra. As always, a delight to hear you speak and to be part of the Sunday gathering. You probably would agree with me, ladies and gentlemen, that this Sunday gathering feels like home for you on a Sunday. As Brian was talking, there's many different homes. This is one of them where we all come together and share our thoughts and really enjoy what we do. And it starts us off for the coming week. But also there's many a saying around the world about home. And one of them we have here in the UK is home is where the heart is. And I was actually thinking about this earlier when Sandra and Brian decided on the theme and brought it to our attention. I thought it's more than bricks and mortar. It's more than a roof and it's more than possessions. Well, actually, the more I thought about it, it was about the deepest affections that we have. The memories, the love that we share, wherever that is, wherever that feeling comes from, is home. And it's not something we can externalize, it's internal. It's something that we believe in. So when I was given this theme, I thought to myself, what can I say that will be uplifting for the week coming? Well, it's very simple, really. We know that our deepest affections are love, and where we are and who we love, like brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and partners, they're the important ones. And as well as we're all sharing that love, then we're enjoying ourselves. We've got a smile on our face. We're having moments of joy. We're making memories that we don't just remember what we did, but how we feel through that love. And those memories stick with us. So they'll always be carried within our hearts. And that's what that home is where the heart is means to me. We also have another saying here in English, in England, is where an Englishman's home is his castle. And that castle is all about understanding about having a place where we can do what we want to do, the things that make us joyful, the things that make us happy, to be the person that we truly are. Well, again, that isn't about home. It's about what's in your heart, living every moment, enjoying every moment, and sharing those moments with people that are very special for you. So it's very simple for this week. Keep smiling, keep on doing the things that you love with the people that you love. And even those people you meet along the way as you're sharing your love, include them. Smile, bring them in, hold them dear, and make the most of life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that, Phil. And thank you for everyone, as always, for being here. And thank you for Brian for coming up with the theme and the wonderful songs. It's been a great privilege to watch and enjoy and be part of. So thank you for that. Now, if you'd all like to close your eyes and join me for the closing prayer. We would like to thank our friends, brothers and sisters from around the world for joining here today and uniting under that banner of We Don't Die, and for all being of service and playing your part to allow us all to be part of the experience, which is the joy and wonder of bringing the two worlds together as one. To our dear friends, helpers and loved ones of that world we call unseen, we'd like to thank you for not being here for just this Sunday, but for each and every Sunday, and allowing these Sunday gatherings to take place. We'd like to thank you for sharing your words and your thoughts through the mind of our workers here today, and allowing us all to immerse ourselves within that unconditional love and that healing balm, which has brought great nourishment to our hearts, minds and our souls, so we can all leave this Sunday gathering feeling uplifted and joyous, and for that we are eternally grateful, so we thank you for that. Each and every one of our workers here today is grateful for the opportunity to being able to walk hand in hand, side by side, and representing your world here today, and we've all done this with the best of intentions and truly hope we've done this in the right way. As we leave this Sunday gathering and allow the sun to set on this day, we look forward to the rise of a new dawn, where we can take the words from this gathering, knowing that our lives within this world are very short, but we can embrace and enjoy each and every day, going forward in the comfort and knowledge to know that you are continually walking by our side, hand in hand, guiding us and inspiring us to be the best that we can be, and to know there is no end, as both love and life are both eternal. And as always, we ask that a healing light continues to go to all four corners of our world, to each and every country, to bring that healing balm to all those hearts and minds that are in great need at this time. And we ask that this continues to go on through the rest of our week until we meet again. Until we meet again, my friends, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Amen.
Thank you so much, Darren, Carrie, and Phil. I love you. Brian, thank you for being our special guest today. Oh, to our friends in the spirit world, thank you for reminding us that you're still around. Ladies and gentlemen, you could be anywhere right now and you chose to be with us. We will give you everything we've got to let you know that you are never alone and that you are loved. So as we go into our closing song, I picked this one. It's a Kenny Chesney song. Now, some people call home heaven, and everybody wants to go there, but maybe not just yet. So I hope you enjoy this because I love this song. Yeah, nobody wants to go now. We got too much fun to be had, things to do, explorations to do, things to enjoy. Go enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. We love you. We'll see you next Sunday. Bye.